See if we can get all the stuff working right today. There's a funky slide guitar music. Comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the Evil FB Network. YouTube, check us out, subscribe, do all that good stuff going on. Lots of goodies going on. Of course, Trump stepped out and endorsed Ken Paxton for Senator of Texas, giving John Cornyn and the establishment the big middle finger. Of course, the big race came out against Tom Massey, which I'm not necessarily big on, for Ed Galleran, but we'll see how that race rolls out. That's going to be voted on today, along with the Georgia goodies going on in an election. The biggest probably primary day we've had so far in the process, in the midterms, going into that. Of course, new polls coming out. First one from the Democratic Party on the governor's race in the state of California. We'll see how all that works out and more as we go. Sometimes you just love this stuff as it rocks and rolls. But we had a very interesting role in the governor's race. A lot of people have been working on, we can't win, Republicans can't win, or we want to sabotage. I'm going to tell you the saboteurs. Those that are coming out and saying, Steve Hilton, you got to get behind him, and Chad can't win. Bunch of crap. They are the ones that are trying to lead you down the primrose path of the establishment of Republicans can't win, the establishment. This started in 1989 when Poppy Bush got president, brought Gerald Parsky in here to destroy the Republican Party, the center-right and the freedom liberty types in California. They knew back then, over 30 years ago, you take over California and you will rule not only the United States but the world. We had the Democrats. It started out as a deal like this. Democrats would do this over California, but the Hilton groupies are starting to get in the same boat. And it's really getting frustrating, let's say. It's starting to getting annoying, let's say. But most of all, quit doing stupid. We have to be strategic. We are handed the shot. After really, and I don't count Arnold Kennedy, 30 years of Democratic rule in this state, of stupid rule in this state. We got to get to the point of stop doing stupid. Moreover, quit shooting ourselves in the freaking foot. The Republican Party in the state of California is still stuck on stupid. We got the shot to win and get Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco in the top two. And you've got these cats out there. I got to give John Phillips KBC's on from 12 to 3. He's the only one that I've seen in the media or the Republican Party hierarchy that's saying, hey, your only shot is to get Steve and Chad in the top two. We got a new poll out from the Democratic Party, of all places. It's got Steve Hilton in the lead with 22, Javier Baccaria 21, Steyer with 15, Chad with 10, and the single digits are Katie Porter 7, Mahan 4, and the also rans at 1%. But you're thinking, holy Toledo. How does this all work? How do we get in these situations where we are stuck on totally stupid? Here's the Democratic Party poll. This is supposedly their final one, but I don't know that it will be. You got Hilton, he's went from 16 to 14 to 16 to 18 2 weeks ago, now to 22. What you got Bianco was setting a solid 14 until this poll 2 weeks and then he's down to 10. So that's understandable with all this yo-yo-y stuff that's been going on. And 4 off of Bianco, 4 onto Hilton's understandable. Baccaria's topping out at about 21. He went to 13, to 18 to 21. He's only gained 3 points. So is Steyer. They're saying Porter's down. Mahan dropped 3. I don't believe that. I find flaky. 1 at Villaraigosa, Thurman, Yee, and Swalwell. At least they're polling Swalwell in this. Chad dropping 4. This is a manufactured poll. They want Steve Hilton because they could care less. They could care less as long as it's only one Steve or Chad making the top 2. They know they're a guaranteed win. They don't care if it's Baccaria, Steyer. They'll beat them into submission. Like I said, we got to knock Baccaria down about 3 points. Well, according to this, we got to raise Chad up about 6 or 7. But I'm still saying he's probably at that 14, 15 level. We really just got to move Chad up about 3 points, and we're in. So all this polling, all this, and this is coming from the Democratic Party. This is their internal poll. They wouldn't be releasing it if this wasn't the case. And if there was ever a gift from heaven, this is what Chad mainly and Steve should be exploiting. Jasmine Crockett, a complete mental midget, had a big deal endorsing Javier Baccaria. Of all people, Javier Baccaria. I'll get to the video. Here we go.
I have been watching this race intently, and I can tell you that my heart sank at at the idea that there may not be a Democrat in the top two. I was losing my ish. I wanted to weigh in for a couple of reasons.
Jasmine Crockett of all people, are telling you she was going to lose her ass. She was going to lose her ass. Over Javier Baccaria or any of the Democrats getting shut out and Steve and Chad in the top two. If this isn't motivation to get Chad in the top two and tell all the Republican establishment pukes and the Democratic Party left kooks to stick it right up your ass, if this doesn't motivate you, I don't know nothing that will. We'll get into this and much, much more on the hit parade today. Hopefully Dr. Kelly will be calling in. You know, we haven't had an update from her for 2 weeks, so I'm sure she's chomping at the bit to get in. It'll be an absolutely fabulous, beyond belief, rest of the show. Of course it will be. Trump, who's surprised, well, maybe not. He's full of surprise. You can never predict which way this guy's going to go. He came out today and endorsed Ken Paxton for Senator of U.S. of Texas, smoking the odious piece of ish, John Cornyn, which couldn't get the SAVE Act in. John Thune couldn't get it. Ken Paxton said, hey, if you pass the SAVE Act, I'll back out of this and let Cornyn have it. It just goes to show, like with the establishment Republican Party, they are more dangerous than Democrats because they're trying to shove you into this government control crap and beat you into submission, just like they're trying to do in California with the Steve Hill. No, you can't vote for Chad. Oh, we can't win. We got to give it to the Democrat stuff. In one of his longest tweets, supporting Ken Paxton, which means he must be putting extra emphasis on this, it was thoroughly fascinating that they came up with this kind of that. Now, I will say, I'm not necessarily red hot on the whole he's going after Tom Massey part. But hey, you can't have your cake and eat it too, I guess. So we shall see how all that noise shakes out. That's going to be a tight race. We will see Ed Gallery Galerian versus Tom Massey. Kentucky 4. Trump's pissed because Massey was the one that really pushed the getting the Epstein files released, which I don't know why he's doing that. Just like I can't explain why he's screwing around with the Iran war thing. But it's something you got to deal with. We are still looking good, and this is why Steve and Chad can still win this deal. Here it is, the latest voter returns at 5% in, almost a little over almost 1.2 million. And you see ballots leveling off. the past couple of days, which is kind of unusual getting this, but there you see the chart. Only Democrat plus 4. They are usually 25 up by now. They usually get them in early. They're not. Republicans are outturning Democrats across every age demographic, gender demographic, ethnicity demographic, registration share demographic. And you see the latest. 5, D plus 5, D plus 4, D plus 3, 3.6, 3.6, 4.2, 4.1. That's been consistent. At a D plus 3 rating, we should have about 45% Republican turnout. Easily. 45 to 50. They've only got Steve and Chad in that Democratic poll at 32. 22 for Steve and 10 for Chad. That's why they're trying to push poll you, and the establishment Republicans are saying, oh, you got to unite behind Hilton. There's going to be, if this trend continues, this ballot returning trend continues, you're going to see 45 to 50% Republican vote that are going to be split between Steve and Chad. That's including indies that are going to split about 50-50. This is highly doable. And to say only 32% are voting for Steve and Chad is pure bullcrap. That poll released by the Democratic Party is to try to get you to buy into this whole Democratic, it's that, because they know, they don't care if it's Steve or Chad as long as it's Bakary and Steyer or whomever, the spy Swalwell, if he even makes it. Because they know they'll kick their ass in a one-on-one D versus R. This is why they do not want this to happen. This is why the establishment Republicans are all trying to move this to the point that they're going to get you to all vote for Steve Hilton or the center right and freedom liberty types. They don't care if it's Bakary or Steyer, most likely Bakary, because they know, or they're 99% sure they're going to win. Where they know they're 100% sure they're not going to win is Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco are 1 and 2 and move to the November primary. And I don't care if they're going to recall them, then let them give it a shot. That's liable to backfire on them big time. People don't like the sour grapes part. Oh, I'm just pulling a recall because my guy didn't win. That usually doesn't play there. There's a lot going on here. And again, I've told you, the establishment Republicans are more dangerous than Democrats. At least Democrats are honest about they want to take
1 minute
off the communist regime. The establishment Republicans are there to take the center-right freedom liberty types and shove them on the government control agenda. And they're doing a hell of a job here in California. Tell them, just like Jasmine Crockett, stick it up your rear end. We're going to vote Steve and Chad in
30 seconds.
with the help of the Democrats.
Still waiting on Dr. Kelly's call.
You You got it. Well, and hopefully Dr. Kelly will call in. You might have to remind her since she's on Tuesday. We'll see. Of that. Hopefully she'll call in on that. We'll get the latest and greatest.
All right, here we go. 10 seconds.
Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday. Live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the 4-inch AM band, joining our vast video audience in the Evil FB Network YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in IE Newswire on those deals, or Roy Bleckert, and you'll get my nice smiling shining face. New polling came out. They said the final one. They said it 2 weeks ago. Said it was going to be the final one of the Democratic Party. They got Hilton up front, Baccaria right at 20% range, Steyer 15. They're trying to kill Chad Bianco's campaign at 10, trying to get you to vote for Steve Hilton. Because they don't care if it's Steyer or Baccaria. They know a D versus R, they're going to win. They know 99% chance. 100% chance they're going to lose if it's Steve and Chad. Get Bianco. Get your friends to vote for Bianco. Let the Chad bot or the Hilton bots have their deal. And we'll rock and roll with however it comes out. But we know they're 100% defeated in November if Steve and Chad are the only two choices. And we got 2 more weeks to get that in. Get your peeps to vote for Chad Bianco for governor. We'll get top 2 in, and then we'll watch the Democrats rolling around like their hair's on fire and their asses a catching, to quote the old Charlie Daniels Easy Rider song. Trump came out and endorsed Ken Paxton today for senator of Texas, thwarting the old John Cornyn, and that was pretty much, hey, you're not going to vote for the Save America Act?
You guys.
All right.
Thune and Cornyn, you're not going to push that. You're not going to guarantee safe and secure elections in the U.S. Senate. You're going to hold it up. Okay. Trump said, we're done. Endorsing Paxton. That vote will be next week. Expect Ken Paxton to replace that fruitcake John Cornyn. That'll be another one. Another one down the drain, as they say. And none too soon. Got the big race, Kentucky 4 in the Congress. Tom Massey versus Ed Galerian. Trump came out for Galerian, which I wasn't happy with. Love Tom Massey. We'll see if he can pull it out. It'll be the most watched race because Trump and AIPAC went completely, put $25 million in to defeat Tom Massey. Mainly because he was the one that pushed, him and Ro Khanna pushed the release of the Epstein files. For whatever reason, Trump didn't want them in. So, that's the whole enchilada we got going on. In the national elections. Hopefully, Dr. Kelly will call in.
Dr. Kelly just messaged me back and said she's sorry she's stuck in a conference call.
Okay, so you'll have to endure with me again. Hopefully we'll get her on Thursday. But more of this stuff going on. And it looks like it's over. Ed Galerian is going to win. Tom Massey defeats Tom Massey. Reported on MSNBC. Tom Massey has conceded the race, and NBC is calling it for Galerian, which I said it was either going to be Massey close or a Galerian blowout, and it looks like he's gone. Going to win with, it looks like about 54, 55 to 45 on the projection so far. So that's going to be a real interesting race. I got to say this, if you oppose Trump, or you go against, he got Bill Cassidy out in Louisiana. Cornyn will probably be gone next week with Ken Paxton, which is a good thing. Tom Massey thing I'm not happy about. He was one of the few center-right freedom liberty types that was in the Congress and got the Epstein files out. But it will be a real interesting race as we move forward. Let's talk about the midterms. Of course, in the midterm congressional elections, the party in power almost always loses seats. Last time they didn't was 2004, after we were in the Iraq War with George Bush after the 9/11 attacks. We actually gained seats, but that's a very rare occurrence. Well, with the redistricting thing torched off, it looks like there would be 10 additional seats. Cook Political Report is calling it two.
Still, we could have Dr. Kelly calling in here. Hang on.
Okay, we could have 210, 207 with 18 toss-ups. And if you split them evenly, the Republicans will still retain the House by one vote, which will be very flaky. But it'll be a very interesting track. The House is not necessarily lost, even the Senate.
All right, I got Dr. Kelly.
You got, okay, as we usually do on a Monday, but we finally got her on Tuesday. We have, as I've determined her, the supreme physician in all the world, expert on COVID-19 and just about everything else. Dr. Kelly, welcome to iNewsWire with Roy.
Hey, Royce. Thanks for having me and putting up with having me on a Tuesday and late at that. Don't you hate it when your day job gets in the way of radio?
Yes. Yeah, how can that happen with us on that? Some real interesting developments developing on the national election scene. Of course, Trump came out this morning and endorsed Ken Paxton, which I was really happy about. Maybe we'll finally get rid of John Cornyn out of that. Another thing I'm not necessarily real happy about, Tom Massey seems to be, he conceded Kentucky for Ed Galerian will win that seat going forward. We'll lose what I'm saying is one of the best congressmen we had and got the Epstein files released. But what's your take on those two issues, Dr. Kelly?
Well, I'm really thrilled about Ken Paxton. Ken has done a stellar job historically when he's Attorney General. He's really done a good job. He's always been on the right side of every issue. He's particularly good on health care, and obviously that is very, very important to me. I agree with you with regard to Massey. I think he's getting painted with the wrong brush here. I hate to say, I think he's done a very, very good job, but I'm sorry to see sort of all the fallout from things that have happened in the past, really just couple of weeks. This kind of caught me off guard, to tell you the truth, with Massey. I didn't see that coming. Maybe others did.
No, I said it was either Massey was going to hold on barely by a skin or it was going to be a Galerian blowout, which it appears to be. Hey, when when somebody spends 25 million plus in a primary all-time record, man, you got an uphill climb. Even though Tom Massey was able to raise 10 million of himself, when the sitting president and all that money's coming in after you, that's going to be a tough take. And no matter what, which kind of is perplexing with all these polls coming out, the Trump disapproval rating is up 40, 60 and all this. He got Bill Cassidy out as Louisiana senator. Cornyn appears will probably be out next week. Tom Massey. Still appears Trump has a lot of gravitas when it comes to supporting candidates, and his back candidates seem to win.
I agree. And by the way, getting rid of Cassidy is no small feat and means a lot. Cassidy has been a rotten apple in the bin for a long time. He has done truly, he has upset and been the thorn in the side of HHS and Bobby Kennedy. He's tried, there's been nothing but subterfuge with the MAHA movement, so I couldn't be happier to see Cassidy go. With regard to Trump endorsements, I hope you're right, because Trump certainly has put his name behind Hilton, gubernatorial Virginia, and I'm hoping we've got a lot of real estate to cover between now and the actual election. But it is, you and I have talked about it many, many weeks in a row here. It appears plausible that we could end up with a Republican back at the helm in California again, which would be remarkable.
Yes, and I think Steve's locked in the top two. And I warned on it earlier, the Democratic poll that came out, their internal poll of that. They're pushing Hilton. The California or the National Governors Association, headed up by, or with a big push by Gavin Newsom, is pushing this Hilton. They put millions of dollars behind Hilton. They're trying to crush Chad Bianco, because they know if it's Chad and Steve in the top two, it's 100% guaranteed. They know if it's Steve or Chad versus any Democrat, they're 99% they're going to win in November. That's why I'm encouraging everyone right now to vote for Chad Bianco in that, so we can get Steve and Chad in two, because we either win this in June. This whole thing, having our sacrificial lamb like we have in the last 18,000 elections, does us absolutely no good. We got the perfect storm to take back the California governor's race here in June. We better seize it here in California, Dr. Kelly.
I agree with you, and the important thing is, and unfortunately, people who aren't as savvy with regard to how these elections go don't understand how important it is to vote, cast your ballot for Chad Bianco. It's already in. We already have, as you said, a guarantee of getting Hilton on the ballot. So everyone has got to vote for Chad Bianco to make sure he's second on the ticket, if there's even still a chance of that. The low information voters tend to vote for, if they've heard of any name, they will vote for Hilton, and they're saying that's who I would prefer, but this isn't a who you'd prefer between the two of them. You got to get both of them on the ballot. So you keep pounding that drum, Roy, every single opportunity you can, that everybody's got to get out and pull that lever for Chad Bianco if we want to have a chance of taking this thing back.
And I do, I know it's taboo to do it in the radio industry, but John Phillips on KABC is the only other one I know on the Republican side, or center writer of talk shows, that's actually, he finally came on board with this after I've been preaching it a year. So yes, we need to get more people on board with this, educate them, split the votes. If or if you got people that will not vote Republican, get them to vote for Antonio Villaraigosa, Katie Porter,
Right.
any of the lower ones on that. So we know, all we got, I believe, is still, I think we only got to knock Baccaria down about 3 or 4 points and raise Chad about 3 or 4, and we got him in the top two, Dr. Kelly.
No, I think that's right. And John Phillips did write a very good article about exactly this topic and getting people to vote for Chad Bianco in hopes of trying to secure 2 Republicans on the ticket. It's still a long shot, as you said. And unfortunately, if there's a Democrat in that mix, no matter who it is, even if it's the dreadful Katie Porter. The Democrats being who they are, they somehow managed to pull these things out. You can't underestimate the cheat factor. That always weighs in. But really, what an unlikable bunch of people the Democrats are running, even by their standards. These are a really lousy choice of people. I can't think of, Katie Porter. Is the idea that she's even still in the mix is really phenomenal.
It is. I mean, they're handing us this on a silver, gold, and platinum platter. We better take it. Shifting gears on this, where you're really and where we started with all this, 6 years ago with the COVID con and everything. You put up from Dale Bigtree on the X Machine, you reposted, and he's doing it. And Bobby Kennedy Jr., our HHS secretary, has it. Let's just do a study between unvaccinated and vaccinated kids and find out what their health outcomes are doing now. Simple. We got the data, we got the subjects, we got all of it in. Let's just do the study and find out where the real science goes, Dr. Kelly.
Well, there's no question it needs to be done. And frankly, Roy, I believe that the CDC already knows the answer to that question. And Bobby Kennedy knows that they do as well. They've simply tried to keep it hidden and done a good job keeping it hidden from the public for decades. Bobby Kennedy and one of his colleagues, Brian Hooker, did a great expose. They published it in a book called Vaxxed, Unvaxxed, Let the Data Speak. And they did exactly that. They looked at the data on totally unvaccinated populations, of which there are quite a few, not only the Mennonites and the Amish, but certain other religious sects that are totally unvaccinated. And what they found was not just a small difference in illness rates and chronic disease rates in children, but monumental differences in everything from autism to ADHD, asthma, eczema and psoriasis, allergies to different foods, all sorts of things, cancers. Profoundly different. And the unvaccinated are far healthier than the vaccinated. Then a pediatrician, Dr. Thomas, did a study, lost his medical license for doing that study out in Washington State. And we have a doctor in Pennsylvania who did a study at the behest of the Children's Health Defense and then refused to publish the results because he found the same thing, that every single study over and over again proves that children who never receive a vaccine end up being healthier lifelong than their counterparts who receive vaccines.
I mean, let's get to the bottom of this whole autism breaking out and everything else, so that where it was almost unforeseen a couple decades ago to know what 1 in every 10 or 12 boys or something is diagnosed with it. I mean, whatever it is, let's figure it out. If it's not the vaccines that are doing it, then what the hell is? Let's find out what the answer is to these questions, Dr. Kelly.
And no question. And again, it goes far beyond autism. Autism itself, the last official data from the CDC on autism rates was published in 2022. And at that point, it was 1 in 31 children. As you said, the rates in California are even higher. It's 1 in 12 boys in California is diagnosed with autism. That is a stunning data point, and it's one that's simply untenable. We can't afford that, let alone just imagine what that means. If essentially 10% of males born in the state of California are autistic, what the hell is the workforce going to look like 20 years from now? These are things that are simply untenable as a society. So do I think that vaccines play a role? Yes, I do. And I think that the data point us that way. Are vaccines the only causative agent? No, it is likely multifactorial. Probably has to do with the timing of the vaccines, the frequency with them, how they are grouped together, whether or not the child develops a high fever. All sorts of things probably play into it. But there's no question in my mind that the one thing that is modifiable is that vaccine schedule. There's absolutely no justification for giving the number of vaccines that we give or giving them at the rate, the frequency, and in the combinations that we give them. Countries like Japan that got rid of the combined MMR, they still have measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines, but they don't give it as the combined MMR vaccine. When they did that, starting in 1993, they saw a precipitous drop in their rates of everything, again, from autism to food allergies, asthma, eczema, and lots of other conditions. So I do believe that the study needs to be done. We need to go back to the beginning with every single vaccine and run it against a true placebo, another vaccine. Testing one vaccine against another vaccine, that is not a placebo. You have to test it against something that is inert, like saline, and redo those studies so we can sort this out. But it's going to be decades, Roy, before we do.
Another thing that broke since we've had you on last is the whole Fauci with Rand Paul in front of Congress testifying. I mean, back in 2017, the CIA said, hey, you better get down here at the Wuhan lab. They're doing gain-of-function research. And this place looks like a freaking disaster. They held it from Trump 1.0. We went down there. Now, when Fauci came in, and he knew this was stuff in 2020 when the COVID con came in, it's always been my contention from day one when he knew when this thing was coming. He knew far before everybody else did what was going on, what was going to happen, and why it was happening. He was in full cover-up mode from either very late December 2019 to January 2020, and he was doing a CYA on his own rear end, trying to cover this up because he knew he was complicit in releasing the COVID con and the COVID virus on everybody. That's my opinion, Dr. Kelly.
Oh, it's irrefutable that that's the case. Anthony Fauci absolutely was involved in gain-of-function research. When the moratorium was placed on it in this country, he started to figure out ways to funnel that research overseas, specifically to the Wuhan lab, the virology lab there, and he did it by funneling U.S. taxpayer dollars, over $20 million in the first year, through EcoHealth Alliance. He furthermore perjured himself not once, not twice, but at least 5 times in front of Congress when he stated that he wasn't involved in gain-of-function research at all, let alone in Wuhan. We have the receipts. We have hundreds and hundreds of emails between Fauci and his feckless band of ne'er-do-wells saying things like, well, don't put this in the public sphere. We got to tamp down this discussion about the lab leak. We need to create a diversion, and on and on and on. Anthony Fauci's on the record saying multiple times, the problem is that, quote, Americans aren't scared enough. We need to up the fear factor so that they'll take the vaccine. We need to make people uncomfortable. We need to make life unlivable until they take the vaccine. These are things that are absolutely horrific. Unfortunately, the statute of limitations has expired to indict him. Who knows if the preemptive pardon given by the Biden auto pen would stand or not, but nonetheless, they apparently chose not to indict him. Interestingly, they did indict one of his, top advisors, who may well sing like a, he may tell all, even though Fauci won't ultimately be held accountable. Having somebody, a high-ranking advisor of his, spill their beans in order to get a plea deal would be worth it, because at least, if nothing else, Anthony Fauci would go down in a disgraced way.
Got a couple minutes left. Anything else our audience should know? Go.
We're still paying attention to, we were just getting out of the hantavirus, ridiculous sort of, they tried to run that up the flagpole, figuring that people would not understand that it is, you simply cannot make a pandemic out of something that doesn't spread human to human. Now they're trying to do it with Ebola. So keep your eyes open, because they're trying to create a real fear fest out of this Ebola outbreak. We've had Ebola outbreaks, 17 of them over the past couple of decades. They are common in sub-Saharan Africa and in areas in the Congo, which is where this one is currently. Again, Ebola is not spread by human. It's not a respiratory virus. It is only spread by direct contact with infected patients, and I mean direct bodily contact with blood or other bodily fluids. This is not something that will create a pandemic, but that doesn't mean they won't try to make it look like it can.
Thanks for being on, Dr. Kelly. We'll do this again soon.
Thanks, Roy.
Dr. Kelly Victory saying it only as she can. Yeah, maybe, and I mean, if there is one good thing that came out with the COVID con, at least people, even parents are not now starting to say, hey, maybe my kid doesn't need 67 vaccinations or whatever. And when they're trying to pull this whole thing of whatever this latest one is, people are saying, you know, we heard the boy that cries wolf scenario enough. We're not gonna dive under the desk like the old days with the nuclear bombs. And we did. That's what, when I was a kid of grade school, and nuclear attack, they had us dive under the desk like that was gonna do anything. But you know, we're done with hopefully we're done with the fear mongering. Don't take the fear mongering they're trying to do. The Democrats and the establishment, more evil Republicans are trying to get you not to vote for Chad Bianco. Get all your friends, family, enemies, whomever to vote for Chad. And if they won't vote for a Republican, get them to vote for Tony Thurmond, Antonio Villaraigosa, Katie Porter, even the Spy Swalwell. Just as long we got to knock Baccaria down a few points, raise Chad up. I think Steve's in. We need to guarantee the win. That will help Michael Gates and Herb uneffing California Morgan to get to Comptroller and Attorney General, and Sonia Shaw in as State Superintendent, Wagner in as Secretary of State, and Coast-Garden as Insurance Commissioner. I think I hit them all. Or Gloria Romero for Lieutenant Governor. And we can get it. We can turn California and the nation around. We'll get into it tomorrow a little bit more, hopefully, or Thursday. The midterms, I mean, not saying that the Democrats won't take over, but there is a path to victory. With Ken Paxton in it, that, maybe take it flipping Michigan, which will counteract North Carolina. Maybe we'll hold the Senate. We hold the Senate and the House and flip California. Katie, bar the freaking door. Happy days will be here again. Even though Tom Massey lost, which I'm not happy about, but hey, as they say, you can't win them all. That'll do it for today, as I head to the City Council meeting. Mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours. Why? You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
The preceding was a paid program.
All right, Roy, have fun tonight.
You got her. See ya.
Bye.